Hello everyone and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today I'm going to be looking at the game Trails. Now this game is by the same company that brought us Parks, kind of in the same kind of venue, but it's got a different gameplay than Parks does. And I'm going to go ahead and show you today a solo mode that I have come up with for this game, because this game is a 2 to 4 player game, does not have currently a solo mode, and so this is going to be an unofficial solo mode that I came up with because somebody in the Facebook Parks page had asked if there was a solo mode, and it got me to thinking, how could we make this game into a solo game? Now keep in mind, I've only been able to test this 3 times so far, and so this has not been tested very much, and so at the same time, if you have any ideas of ways to tweak the solo variant that I've come up with, I would appreciate that in the comments. Let me know what you think so that we can kind of make this a better mode. But I think it works fairly well so far in the few playthroughs that I have had. And so I'm going to go ahead to the overhead camera, and we're going to talk a little bit about how this mode works. Okay, so the setup for the solo mode is very similar to just setting up a regular 2-player game. With one exception, you're going to have the Automa start on the trail end, similar to the way you'd start with a couple people on the trail end in a 4-player game. It just kind of seems to work better this way because of the fact that he will travel a little bit faster than normal. And so start him on the trail end while you start at the trail head. And then the only thing you're going to need additionally is a dice, a regular 6-sided dice. You could technically use the dice that comes with it. If you were to do that, you would just use the resources for movement of 1 and anything else as a movement of 2, but I just like to use a regular 6-sided dice because then you can say all the even numbers are him moving 1 and all the odd numbers are him moving 2. And so that kind of just makes that a little bit simpler. And so that's the first thing you need to know about the Automa, is that's how he moves. You roll the die. Right there, got a 4, and so he would move 2. And he would get an acorn. And so that is that. One thing else about setup is I go ahead and place his card face up so that I can see what he's going to be getting there towards the end. You're going to have to look at it anyway when it gets to the end, and so it seems kind of pointless to have it face down. Also, I try and face it towards me because all the ones that he achieves I'm going to face away from me so that I don't get confused which ones he's already achieved and which ones he's going for. And so that's basically how the Automa works. You roll the dice, you move either 1 or 2 depending. He will not use a canteen. He'll just either move 1 or 2 spaces. Now another thing about the Automa is he can have as many resources as he collects. With the regular players, you're going to have a maximum of 8 resources. He has no maximum, and so keep that in mind. He moves very similarly to a regular player. And so, you'll go here if the wildlife is there. He'll resolve that the same way as a regular player would resolve it. If he goes to the picture place, he will spend 1 resource that he has the most of to gain the top picture face down. You won't get to see what that is. That kind of keeps that still mystery of how many birds are in his pile. And so rather than looking at 2 and picking, you'll just 1 face down. And so you'll alternate turns. You'll actually start out with the first turn, and then he'll take the second turn. And so that's the way the turns will go. Now when he gets to the trail end, he can then spend whatever resources he has to buy cards, just like you would. But he will go ahead and there's a few different modes you can try with this. In the easy mode, he will simply start by prioritizing the card that has the most victory points on it. If there are multiple cards with the most victory points, then he will prioritize the one that will give resources with the most victory points. And the next birds, and if there's still a tie, the one in his hand will be prioritized most. If there's still a tie, you just pick one. So generally ties don't happen very often that deep down. And so, like for instance, if he could pay 3 leaves and 2 stones, he would go for that one first and then gain the bonus that's on there. If he were to not have those, he would go to the next highest that he can get, and then so on and so forth. And so he will resolve all the ones that he can resolve. And now if you want to do a slightly harder mode, you can go ahead and actually prioritize the picking up of cards. And what I mean by that is the most advantageous for him, just like you would try and do in your moves. So let's say he could buy this navigation card that has 3 stones and a leaf, but give you 2 acorns. Well, if he needs those first in order to get the next card, he would actually prioritize in the hard mode that card first so that he could get that and buy another card. So you would figure out what would be the most advantageous for him to get the most amount of points throughout the entire turn. That is the harder mode. The easier mode is simpler to do because you just kind of start at the top and work your way down as to what he can get. Sometimes he might not get as many cards as if you'd prioritized, but that is the simpler mode. He's also going to score a few less points that way because he's going to get less cards overall, generally speaking, because he's not prioritizing resources. And so there is how that part works. Just like in normal players, when he gets back here to the trail end, this will move forward just like with everyone else. He gets the benefits just like everyone else does. Play is very similar in that fashion. One other place that's different for him as far as traveling is if he comes here to the trading area, instead of trading, he will actually get one of each resource. And so this is a little bit of an advantage for him, but at the same time, he's not being able to prioritize which spaces he goes on and what he gets. And so this kind of helps that a little bit there. I've also toyed with the idea of when he comes here, always getting a picture for free, but it seemed like that overpowered him slightly, and so I went ahead and had him pay the highest, or the cost with resources he has the most of. One other thing about Automa taking turns is if he rolls the bear, he simply will take the action that the bear is currently on rather than choosing a location. Okay, so at the end game, let's say that you trigger the end game by coming to the trail end and claiming the sun and this bonus. Then what the Automa is going to do after you have completed everything you're going to do there is he will go to whichever way he's facing, either the trail end or the trail head, and do one last purchase of whatever he can purchase at that point, and that will be the end of the game. Then you go ahead and add up points as normal for each player. You start out by figuring out who has the most birds and awarding the most scores bird token to whoever does. Let's say he got it there, so we'll just go ahead and put that in front of him. And then you go ahead and tally up the scores. And the person with the most points wins, either you or the Automa. A few other things to note as to how the Automa plays is if the Automa is in the square right before the head or the trail end, trailhead or trail end, then he goes ahead and goes straight to there. He will not, just like you wouldn't be able to pass and continue on, he would not do that either. So he'll go straight to the trail end. If he's here, you don't have to roll the dice because obviously a 1 or a 2, either way, he's going to stop there. Another thing to realize, let's say he was going to buy this card here that has the trade icons on it. He will do the same thing as if he had landed on that space and get one of each in that situation, just like other times. Then he's able to then pay for what he's going to get. Let's say he's going to buy, let's see, the highest up right now would be this one. So he would go ahead and buy that first. And then that one gives him the trade ability. And so what he does there is he gets one of each. That goes into his supply. And then he goes ahead and he buys the next one up that he can. He can't afford this one that's 3 leaves and an acorn. So he will not buy that one. But he can afford the one that's 2 rocks and a leaf. And so he would buy that one. And that would end his turn. Refill as normal. And then you've got another one for him to go after there. And he basically follows the cards just the same way you and I would, except for that trading one, which he does the thing that he does when he trades. Another thing that I forgot to mention in the setup is he gets the same setup as you do with the one of each resource. And that's all it is to his movements and actions. So there you have it, the variation I came up with for Trails to play it solo. Let me know what you think in the comments. If there's any tweaks that need to be done, let me know about that as well. I want to make sure that it's as balanced as we can get it. And go ahead and just let me know what's balanced, what's not balanced, how we can better balance the gameplay there. So far, I was able to win a few games with it and lost one on the hard mode there to begin with. And so it seems like it's got at least a decent bit of balance to it because I didn't win by a whole lot, didn't lose by a whole lot. And so go ahead and give it a try and let me know what you think. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to see more videos. And I'll catch you in the next video.